Okay, let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to today's Guardian webinar titled FlexFund, a modern solution for today's homebuyers. Today, we're going to focus on the product market fit for FlexFund and why a buy now, pay later solution is something that they're encountering in nearly all walks of day to day life, and why it's a fit for home inspections as well. Just a reminder that we'll be leaving time for Q&A at the end. So drop your questions in the chat at any point throughout the presentation. I'll either interrupt Ben if it fits into the flow of the talk, or we can address it after Ben is finished with his slides. Today's agenda, again, BNPL stands for Buy Now, Pay Later, which is essentially what FlexFund is. So we'll talk about why and what is FlexFund, and then we'll quickly highlight the recent customizations and feature additions to FlexFund that make it more flexible for you, the home inspector. We'll cover some benefits of offering flex funds, some numbers that speak to its effectiveness, and then again we'll finish with Q&A. So Ben, I hand it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. And thanks, everybody, for attending today. I'm super excited to just go over some of these updates and a little more information about FlexFund. At this point, while I would still say FlexFund is a relatively young product, we have processed a little more than 55,000 transactions through the system. So we have some really good number, continued improvements and whatnot, but just super excited about what it's doing. So why a buy now, pay later option? Well, there's some really cool things that as we continue to improve on this product that we're coming to understand and see a little bit more. And one of those things being that the median age of home buyers is relatively young, in that 36-year-old range. And interestingly enough, the other day I love ChatGPT, and I asked ChatGPT to tell me, what would something in the age range of the 18 to 36-year-old demographic, what would be something that pulled them out, made them interesting, that other people wouldn't necessarily know, or that would be very unique to that age group. And here's what it interestingly told me on its own. It said, some of them will never, so it called out digital money is normal money to them. So some of them will never write a physical check or carry cash regularly. They're more likely to have paid for something with Venmo, Cash App, Apple Pay, crypto, or a buy now, pay later option. And to them, digital wallets are just wallets. So even ChatGPT is honed in on the fact that a buy now, pay later option is becoming the norm. So the data shows that 74% of buy now, pay later users are falling between that age, 18 to 44. And many of them are relying on the buy now, pay later option as they make especially larger purchases. 58% of them say that they use it for that very reason, that they've got to save up. They're struggling to have the funds available in the market today, where, the median home price gets into the $500,000 in many areas. That younger demographic has a harder time with those larger purchases. And so anything that they can do to hold on to their cash a little bit longer is becoming the norm. So buy now, pay later option is, every day we're seeing it being used in everyday purchases. If you've been on Amazon or at Walmart, at Best Buy, it pretty much doesn't matter where you're shopping or what you're shopping for. A $5 item to a $50,000 item, you're being presented with a buy now, pay later option. And, why is that? Well, the studies have shown that when somebody is presented with an option to pay that isn't cash. So for years and years, we've been talking to inspectors about credit card processing and how that changes the buying habits of an individual. That when they don't have to reach into their pocket and pull out cash, they're not feeling that pain that's associated with paying for something with cash, because they're paying with a credit card, funny money, right? The reason that Vegas pulled out cash machines out of every slot machine out there and created a plastic card that you can now pay with within a casino is because you now don't feel that pain of paying with cash. Well, FlexFund and a buy now, pay later option is that on steroids, right? You completely eliminated any form of payment. You're able to say to your customer, you don't have to pay me anything today. you're able to pay for this transaction later. And in fact, maybe somebody else is going to pick up that payment in the end if you can get some seller concessions out of the deal. So buy now, pay later options are completely turning off those pain receptors. So you Flex Fund, that's what Flex Fund is. You're giving your customer the opportunity to pay for your home inspection at closing. So you, the inspector, still get paid up front by Guardian. So when you do the inspection, you're going to get paid immediately, just like if you were to process a credit card transaction. That's how fast you're getting paid with a Flex Fund transaction. So you're giving your customer that option, an option to pay using Flex Fund. When that customer chooses that option, and you're able to, and we'll get into this a little bit further, but you're able to design when and how you want your customer to see Flex Fund as a payment option. But so when you present it to them and they choose that option, all that we're going to ask them for is a little bit of information. Do you know your closing information? Do you have that title company's information so that we can get this added to your closing? If they don't have that information, they're able to say, nope, I don't have it. And we're going to reach out to their agent and gather that information. But again, in all aspects of this, you're completely removed from that process, right? When the customer chooses to play with Flex Fund, they're able to walk through the process on their own. You're getting paid when you do the inspection. We reach out to the title company to gather that payment at closing. So, and that's generally a transaction is going to make it to closing. If it doesn't, we have gathered credit card processing information from the customer right up front, so that if it doesn't make it to closing, again, you stay completely out of the process. We're just billing their credit card. We're making that very clear to the customer right up front as they go through the checkout process. So why was Flex Fund created? Well, it's not a new concept. Pay at close transactions have been happening. I've been in the credit card processing industry within the home inspection industry for 25 years. And for 20 years of that, we've had customers, inspectors coming to us saying, hey, can you help me with pay at close transactions? I've got agents who are coming to me saying they want their clients to be able to pay for their home inspection at closing. And inspectors hated it. They had to wait to get paid. Oftentimes the transaction doesn't make it to closing. And so now they're having to figure out how to go gather those funds. They wanted some way of guaranteeing that they were going to get paid after they had waited for 60 to 90 days to get that transaction paid for. So they were coming to us saying, hey, how can you help us on the credit card processing side? So for years and years and years, we've been looking at pay at close transactions and saying, how can we facilitate this type of a transaction for a home inspector? And so the product came out of a need generated by agents. And so that's another really cool thing about the product is it's in reality, it's a payment method for you to provide for your customers, but it's so much more than that. It's really a marketing tool. It's a marketing tool to get you to allow you to present more ancillary services to your customers to get a larger ticket item, but it's also a way for you to close more price shoppers, and it's a way for you to get more agents. And so we'll talk about that too in a little bit, but it's fully integrated into your ISN software. There's no in and outs. Your ISN gets fully updated as a transaction goes through the process, just like a credit card transaction. Again, it's releasing the reports to your customers. You're not having to do any of that. And that's, again, what it solved for an inspector. The inspector before was having to do all the paperwork. They were having to send it to title companies, follow up with title companies, maintain paperwork, maintain whether or not they had actually been paid for this transaction 60 to 90 days later. Then when it didn't, they had to go after that person. So you're always going to get paid right up front for the transaction, and there's never a clawback for that transaction, regardless of whether or not it makes it to closing or not. Some of the things that, as we've grown through the product, that are really cool, that have that we've changed and implemented as we've gone to market and worked with home inspectors, worked with the different states and scenarios that come from being across the nation. Some areas work very much so with title companies. Some work with lawyers, different closing agents, and so We've had to grow and adapt as we've experienced those different scenarios. Also, just the way that an inspector wants to use FlexFund. So in the beginning, if you've been around FlexFund for a while, you've seen some of these changes that I'll talk about. If you haven't, I'm just going to share them with you so that maybe it can spark a way that you want to use FlexFund. But in the beginning, we really came to market saying you need to uh, provide FlexFund for free to your customer. And I'll tell you that we still stand behind that. We have data to prove out that the inspectors who are giving FlexFund away for free are the most successful inspectors with the product. They're getting the biggest bang for their buck out of the FlexFund transactions. But what we found is that right off the bat, there were inspectors who were saying, I want to be able to present it to my customers, but it's got a price tag, right? So it's a $50 fee is what you, the inspector, pay for the FlexFund transaction. So inspectors were saying, hey, if I'm doing a condo inspection and it's $250, I don't want FlexFund to be presented on that transaction. If they didn't choose anything more than a $250 condo inspection, I don't want to pay $50 for them to have the ability to pay for this transaction at closing. Now, if I could go into a whole long spiel about how that still would have worked and how it does work for a lot of inspectors, but at the end of the day, that was something that we heard from inspectors is, hey, I need a way to be able to say these are the transactions that I want FlexFund to show up for, and these are the ones I don't. And so that was one of our first customizations is you were able to pick out which inspection types show up for FlexFund and which do not. Well, then we had inspectors who said, well, I still want this type of an inspection to show up, FlexFund to show up for that type of an inspection, but I still don't want to have to pay for it unless it did its job, right? Like we're telling you that you're going to get an increase in your ticket price by telling a customer you don't have to pay for your transaction today, you get to pay for this later. Customers are adding more ancillary services to the transaction, driving their inspection fee up, driving their revenue up. And inspectors were saying, well, if it didn't do its job, if that customer didn't add additional ancillary services, then again, I don't want them to have that opportunity to pay for their transaction at closing and that me have to pick up the $50. And so we created a minimum and a maximum feature in the product. So you can go in and say, hey, my average transaction comes in at $500. And so unless they've added one or two ancillary services driving my ticket price up to $650, $700, whatever it is, I don't want FlexFund to show up as a payment option. So that was one of our next big releases was the ability to set minimums. So you can now say all of the above. You can say, I only want it to show up for these these tickets, and I don't want it to show up if the ticket price doesn't get to a certain range. So if FlexFund didn't do its job and give me additional ancillaries, I don't want it to show up. And so you're able to totally customize those two settings and make it so that you're only paying for the transaction if it did its job. Well, the next piece is that there were still some inspectors out there who just said, look, I don't want to have to worry about a lot of those other things. I just want to be able to charge my customers for this. I've been doing pay at close transactions for a number of years, and I've been charging my customers. When we went to market, we did a survey across hundreds of inspectors. And one of the things that we asked them was, if you're doing pay at close transactions today, what are you charging for it? And the range was anywhere from 50 all the way up to $150. And so we thought, well, we're going to meet in the middle, and we think we don't need to be at the $150 range, but $75 should be a place where we're going to cover our losses and have some revenue generated. So we came to market at $75. We quickly found after about a year and a half of running transactions where our breakage actually was, realized that we don't need to be at $75, and we cut the price down to $50, which has been a fantastic boon to everybody, right? We're still able to control our costs, make some money, and give you a price that is a good price for you to move forward with. But still, inspectors were saying, I'm not super excited about paying the $50 at all, I want to pass that on to my customers. That was our latest release, was that you're now in a fully automated way, works with your online scheduler, works with however you're booking that transaction. You can set a price for FlexFund to be presented to the customer. So the guys who now are really the most successful with all of the above of what we've designed out are the guys who are creating packages, and they're coming in and they're saying, if you buy my base package, you can also have the opportunity for your to pay for your transaction at closing, but it's going to cost $50, $100, whatever it is that you want to pass on to them. If you choose the medium package, then that flex fund price cuts down to, if you started at 100, now it's $50, and you're making, just covering your costs. But if you choose my premium package, then I offer flex fund, or the ability for you to pay for at closing for free. So now that inspector who's doing it that way has really covered every part of the gamut of ways to really utilize flex fund. If the customer chooses a $250 condo inspection and they charge $100 for flex fund, they made an extra $50 on that transaction. Flex fund actually became an ancillary service for that inspector. But if they chose a package with one or two ancillaries added to it, then they covered their cost of FlexFund by charging just $50, and it became a part of the package. Some guys just build it in as a package price. Some guys add it as a line item. You can do all of those things in a fully customizable way. And then there's the guys who say, well, it totally did its job. It got me that $900, $1,200 ticket, and so I'm going to give FlexFund away for free, because that's really what it does. When a customer calls, and everybody's had it, somebody calls and says, how much is your home inspection? And if the first thing out of your mouth is just a price, you're probably going to lose on that price shopper, right? Unless the price that you said was what they wanted, which almost always it's not, because the average home buyer thinks, that home inspection is going to cost $250. And so when you say $500, they instantly have sticker shock. They're not listening to anything that you tell them about all of these other ancillary services that you offer. So when you say, don't worry about it, you don't have to pay me anything today, you get to pay for your transaction at closing, and let me tell you about all of the services that I offer. I offer mold and radon and sewer scopes. And so when you add all of those things together, your ticket is $950. That customer actually listened to all of those ancillary services. They listened to why they need to have those ancillary services. You're able to do your job of selling them on the benefits of all of these additional services that you offer, and you get that ticket to that $950,000 price range. FlexFund absolutely did what it was designed to do. And so, um, that's one of the beauties of all of the customization that we've done for FlexFund at this point, is we've really given you the ability for you to control how you want to sell it. Are you a really good salesman already? Well, so maybe it could be both ends. I'm a really good salesman already. I get lots of ancillary services. I don't need pay at close to be a way for me to get those transactions. Great, charge for it. If somebody wants to take advantage of it for whatever reasons, they're tight on funds, it's a convenience for them, you don't care. It's not going to cost you anything, or you might even make some revenue depending on where you set your price. Or you offer it for free because you are a really good salesperson, but you're only adding ancillary services on 50% of your transactions, and you're trying to drive that to the 70, 80% of transactions. This is another tool in your tool belt to help you close more deals. So it's really a very customizable product. There's within your ISN, there's a new feature. I say new, it's not so new anymore, but it's called the upgrade feature within the online scheduler that really allows you to kind of go through that process that I was talking about before, where you're able to say to somebody, here's a line item, FlexFund comes in at $100. When you add these additional ancillary services, that price drops down or becomes free. You create those packages, and you can completely take the selling out of your hands and put it all on ISN as you utilize these two features together. Pay at close FlexFund on top of ISN's upgrade feature makes it really a powerful tool for you not only with agents, but again with customers, whoever's going through that online process, and you're not even having to be a part of it. So some very super cool enhancements. Again, we just talked about this newest feature of being able to pass the fees on to your customers. One of the greatest things about that is that it creates a no lose situation for you in every case. Somebody wanted to if they wanted to add $150 sewer scope only, and that's all that they were going to do, and they wanted to pay for it at closing, you could pass that fee on to that customer. As long as there's a closing involved with that transaction, it's a transaction that qualifies for FlexFund. So it really has been a super powerful product. And so, just what does that look like for your customer? If you're somebody who's already doing FlexFund, if you go into your FlexFund settings, so if you go into settings, office settings, and then pay at close options, you're going to see here these options for you to enable your Flex Fund, and then enable the Flex Fund client paid fee. And then right there, you're able to set that price that you want to pass on. Some people pass on $35. They don't cover the entire $50. They feel like $35 is a good price point. Some people are doing $150, and they're just making revenue off of the transaction every time somebody takes advantage of it. So very easy to customize process within ISN. It becomes a line item on their invoice. So when that client, again, depending on how you function, how you make it function, it'll show whatever you're charging or whatever the discounted price is, all the way down to free, so that customer can see FlexFund is a part of their transaction, and they're paying whatever you have designated as the fee. And again, this is that online scheduler piece that I talked about. It's just a really great way for you to utilize all of the tools that ISN is providing to you, taking that process out of your hands, getting you off the phone, letting people go through that process on their own. If you really design that your web presence in a way that agents and customers are finding you, and that's something that I feel like is a new trend, right? A lot of inspectors are really pushing and having success with customers booking directly with, rather than going through their agent and taking an agent recommendation. A lot of customers are booking directly with inspectors. They love these automated processes. It's again, if we look at our demographics and how the demographics of our current home buyers are changing, they're used to these things. They're used to online transactions. They're used to finding who they're going to do business with online, and not having to worry about whether the agent's involved in that process or not. And so this together with ISN has made this a very powerful tool. When your customer gets to the checkout process, if you have designated that FlexFund can show up as a payment option to your customer, when they hit the checkout page, this is what they're going to see. They're going to see FlexFund as an option, right? So it'll be credit cards, ACH, depending on what forms of payment you're offering. If it's just credit card, it would show credit cards or FlexFund. If it's all of the above, they'll be able to see all of those options. When they choose any one of these options, it's also, again, fully integrated into the software. So it's updating the pricing on the side. You would see FlexFund added. Then if they uncheck that option, it's going to go away. Same thing for ACH and credit card processing. If you're charging a surcharge, all of that's fully automated within your ISN, so that it makes the checkout process super smooth for your customers. And it's allowing you to completely stay in control of that process. You get to design that. And I talked just a little bit about it, but one of the really cool features around FlexFund that I think a lot of people forget or miss out on is how good of a tool it is for you to gain more agents. Right? When you're going in and doing presentations to your agent offices, today, a lot of inspectors are doing, just drop in, say hellos, or if they're doing a presentation, it's a presentation on a sewer scope or on mold remediation or any of those kinds of things, and why their customer needs to have that part of the inspection. What FlexFund allows you to do is to go into an agent office and say, "Hey, Mr. Agent, I'm going to give you the ability to close more deals for yourself. Because if that agent works with you, a home inspector who allows your customers to get paid to pay for their transaction at closing, that's something that the agent loves. He loves the fact that his customers don't have to pull money out of their pocket to pay for their inspection up front. He wants them to have as much cash on hand as possible. He doesn't want them putting transactions on their credit card and messing up their funding. All of those kinds of things become a way for you to go in, meet with a agent office, and say, "Here's a tool that you can now go tell your customers. I work with a home inspector who doesn't require you to pay for your transaction at closing, and hey, I'm a superstar agent. I'm going to try to get us some seller concessions, which means that if that your home inspection is on your closing disclosure, maybe we get the seller to pick up that fee also." Um, and so agents just really love it and as a tool that they get to use. And so you're able to use that in your presentations. We have a full presentation, marketing kit, and decks. We have videos that can be used for you to present to agents, to your customers, to all of the above on how this process works, help you to close, again, more transactions, get rid of price shoppers, bring on more agents. And in fact, we as Guardian are out there pushing for you. We have a locator tool. When you become a FlexFund user, you end up showing up on our locator tool, which now when someone's out there looking for a home inspector who does pay at close transactions, they are able to enter in their zip code and it brings up a list of any inspector in that area who is accepting FlexFund as a form of payment. And so now we're driving transactions to you. For your phone's ringing, your information's all listed. People contact us, we send them to you, and so it also becomes a lead generation tool for you, which we love. When we get a phone call in our office that says, "Hey, I'm looking for an inspector that does pay at close transactions. Can you get me one?" We get their zip code and we find you, and pass that information along. And that's been a super fun thing for us to do. So FlexFund is making a difference for home inspectors. We have some really great numbers. Again, earlier I told you we've run more than 55,000 transactions through the product. And at this point, the average increase in the size of a transaction ticket item is 38%. That's across all of our users. Some as high as 127% increase in their ticket. Another really cool piece about that is that we track when you come on board with us, we instantly take a snapshot of where you're at today. And we say, your average ticket is $525, whatever it is. And then we're able to compare where you were at today versus where you get to with your Flex Fund transaction. So we're able to compare those two things. But the really cool thing that's happening is when you present Flex Fund to your customers, no matter how good you are, even the best salesman at pushing Flex Fund that we've found gets about a 10 to 11% take rate. Most guys are 5 to 7%. So that means you're presenting FlexFund as a payment option on 100% of your transactions. You're telling everybody that you do business with, you don't have to pay me anything today. You can pay for this later at closing. So they're hearing that as a part of your spill, turning off all those pain receptors. But at the end of the day, they get to that checkout page, and then the vast majority of everybody still chooses to pay you with credit card, ACH, cash, check, whatever it is, but not with FlexFund. So you're still getting this buy now, pay later marketing tool, but only having to pay for it on 5 to 7% of your transactions. If you're a superstar, 10 to 11% of your transactions. But what happens is your average ticket, that starting point. So we compare starting point to whatever your ticket is with FlexFund, and then we also capture what your average ticket turns into outside of FlexFund. And so you start at 550 without FlexFund anywhere, that's your starting point. You'll get to 575, 590 outside of FlexFund, just the new average ticket, because everybody is hearing the spill about buy now, pay later. And then you're getting up to that 127%, that 38% increase in ticket on the ones that do go through FlexFund, because that's the guy who really heard the messaging, who listened, who added ancillary services. So you're getting a benefit even on the transactions that don't take advantage of it, which is a super cool thing. Yeah. That 38% equals $154 on average to guys. But as a way to kind of show you when people really get behind the product, I want to show you uh, of what it looks like. Oh, and actually, before we get there, this is what it looks like for customers who are paying for or who are charging for transactions. So even those other numbers were for the guys who are giving it away for free. But even in the world where somebody is charging their customer to use FlexFund, we didn't think we were going to see as much of a price increase because, hey, you're telling somebody, sure, I'll let you pay for it later, but I'm going to charge you for it. Well, we're kind of concerned about that. We don't know what that's going to do for the transaction size. But what we've seen is we're still getting a 22% increase on the low end and as much as a 55% increase on the high end for guys who are charging for FlexFund. So that extra revenue, no matter how it comes, whether it's because you charged them for it, made some revenue off the transaction fee, or because you got a higher ticket price, that's in today's market where there are less transaction happening. That's the way to make more revenue, is to get more revenue out of the transactions that you currently have. And that's what FlexFund is really, truly doing for customers. So what could you do with that extra 110 to $309 per transaction, even if you're charging for flex funds? And if you're not, you're getting that 154 on average price increase. Just some really cool numbers. But to kind of show an example of when people really get behind the product. So this is from one of our franchise groups who, as a group, they are really pushing FlexFund. They're saying this is something that we want to get behind. We're doing lots of marketing efforts around it. They've really gotten behind the presentations and agent offices. It's a part of their script for their call centers. For that group who really got behind it, they're seeing a 43, almost 44% increase on average across hundreds of users, which is a $217 increase in revenue. I show that to kind of break out maybe a little bit of the group that's really doing some big things and having some super good success. We don't really have numbers for this group yet for how they'll do now, because we do have some of their users who are now charging for FlexFund in that method that I was talking about, where they offer packages and they start at $100 and then they discount it down to free depending on how people add. So we'll have some updated numbers around that very soon. But again, this is just a really cool way to see what that looks like when you really get behind the product and start pushing some marketing and whatnot. So we've talked about a lot about the benefits of FlexFund, but again, just want to make sure it's super clear that you get paid up front every time. This is not just a mechanism within ISN to facilitate this transaction. We are funding you right up front on this transaction. You're never going to get the money clawed back on any of this. You don't have to be involved in the transaction at all. Your involvement really is around the marketing, the telling a customer that it's available to them. That's really what's going to make you that extra money, and we're taking care of everything else. We're tracking everything through the whole process. We're doing all the paperwork. We're following up with all the title companies. We're dealing with any transaction that doesn't make it to closing. We're doing all that on your behalf. And so the benefits come with getting paid up front, getting a higher average ticket price, adding additional revenue, whether it's because you've made money on the transaction or because you got a higher ticket item. It's closing more agent offices. It's closing more price shoppers. So it's just this wide range of benefits that come with FlexFund for you, the home inspector, and you get to fully customize how you want to use that. You could be offering FlexFund for no other reason than just getting extra agent offices. There might be a mindset for you to look at, this is how I'm going to use this in this way. It could be for just closing price shoppers. Like your call center has a hard time getting past price shoppers, and you just need a way to get rid of having to answer what your price is, right? You don't have to pay me anything today. You can pay for this at closing. So there's all these additional benefits that come with that. So this product is very flexible. You get to choose when you want to present it. It's a very convenient process for your customer. They're literally takes them no additional time more than it would for them to enter their credit card information and pay for the transaction with the credit card. And they're really out of the process at that point too, other than having the closing information. And if they don't have it up front, we just gather it from the agent. So it's a very simple process. We're fully funding you. You're completely backed by Guardian. It's fully integrated in your ISN. There is no additional work load on your part as far as processing, tracking, any of those kinds of things. We have a full funding report within your ISN, shows you exactly when you're getting paid and for what transactions. All those things match up with order ID numbers and whatnot. Very easy to reconcile and monitor and track. Um, so if you're ready to jump on board, let's do that. If you're on this call because you wanted to hear about some of the updates and new features and just some of the new numbers around what's happening, let's go through that here in our Q&A. But if this is your first time being exposed to FlexFund, a pay at close product, and you're just wanting to get started, lots of great ways for you to do that. You can visit our website at inspectionpayments.com/FlexFund. We have a full FAQs, lots of information around how others are using it, all of our contact information on the website. You can call our 1-800 number. You can email me directly at ben@inspectionpayments.com or GPAC support at inspect. Either one of those emails will get you directly to someone who is a pay at close Flex Fund pro, who can go into your ISN with you and fully customize all of your settings. You can have a great conversation around how you would like to see Flex Fund work for you. And we'll get that all set up for you. And one last thing, just so I don't forget, is that we're not done yet, right? So we've been customizing this product as we go, and we are looking forward to additional benefits around the product. We are looking forward to um, on the seller side of the transaction to introduce a pre-listing option. We're not there yet, but that's on our roadmap to be able to offer pre-listing inspections, or still on the buyer side, but in phase inspections or inspections that are going to take longer than a 60-day close window, which is where we sit today. Is 60 days is the window that we want these transactions to close in. But those are the up and coming things to be excited about. We know that there's a demand out there for pre-listing inspections and phase inspections and some items like that. And so we are working on that. That will be something that comes to market for this product, and just another great enhancement way for you to utilize this tool. And then my last, it's kind of my soapbox thing that I feel like I have to talk to all inspectors about, is that I truly feel that FlexFund is the product that can help change this industry. I've been working with home inspectors for 25 years now, doing credit card processing. I see the numbers across the nation. We have 10,000 home inspectors that we work with. I see the average ticket size of a transaction. And 25 years ago, the average ticket was $410 for a home inspection that was paid for with credit card. Today, 25 years later, that's $480. Right? If we were just to take inflation and just keep up with inflation, we would be sitting at a $760 price point, and we should be even higher than that. If we compare the home inspection industry to the appraisal industry, we can see the discrepancy, right? An appraiser is getting paid 2 to 3 times what a home inspector is getting paid. And why is that? It's because their transactions are getting paid at closing. The vast majority of the markets where that difference is that appraisal gets paid at closing and a home inspection doesn't, there's that discrepancy. In markets where they both get paid the same way, their transaction size actually becomes very similar. And it's all about eliminating the conversation around the transaction. If your agents are able to just say, hey, don't worry about it, this home inspection is going to get paid at your closing, this is your inspector that you need to use, that takes that conversation around cost off the table. And the more that we can do that, the more transactions we can get paid at closing, the closer we're going to get to an industry where we're getting paid like appraisers, and we're going to get that average ticket up there where it needs to be. ancillary services being a part of the package and being a part of the transaction. And these transactions that are 750, 900, $1,200, that will become the norm. But it's the more transactions that we can push to closing, the closer we're going to get to that. So I really hope that people can get and see that future state, can see how the demographics of our markets are changing and how people want to be paying for their transactions in these ways. And that will make a difference on our pricing and allow us to, you, the home inspector, to get paid what you deserve. So really super excited about this product. I'm happy to answer any questions. And so at this point, we'd open it up to any questions that anybody might have. Throw them in the chat. We can, and if there aren't, or if there are some already, we can hit those now.
All right, thank you, Ben. Do payment options go out to the client once the inspection is scheduled, such as after the inspection agreement has been signed online?
Yeah, great question. So the when the customer gets their inspection agreement email, that email template is called inspection agreement with payment link, right? And so that's the process, the flow that a customer goes through. When you book their inspection, one of your next email events is one that goes out and says, "Hey, you need to sign your agreement." Um, and and so in that process, they will have the opportunity to choose FlexFund as that flow goes. So they're signing their agreement. If they choose FlexFund, the next spot they get to is the payment options. If they then choose FlexFund as a payment option, now it's going to present them with a pay at close agreement for them to sign. But it's always your agreement first, the FlexFund agreement second. So we're never, confusing a customer like they think they've signed your agreement. Your agreement always gets signed up front. But that flow in ISN is always presenting them with an agreement of yours to sign first, then with payment options second.
Perfect. And then last one, unless more come in, how do you collect money from the client if they back out of the purchase of the home? How do you Guardian collect payment?
Yeah. So when the customer goes through the checkout process, we're asking them for a credit card to put on file in case their transaction doesn't go to closing. So we're making it as automated and simple as possible for that customer. So if the transaction doesn't go to closing after over 60 days, if we don't get title company information over 14 days, if the agent contacts us and says, "Hey, the client has backed out of this transaction," if any of those things happen, we don't have to reach back out to that customer to get payment. We're able to just bill their credit card that they've put on file with us. So we're collecting payment from the customer after the fact.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Ben. That does it for our presentation today. Thank you all for being here. And we hope that we see you or hear from you in the near future. All right.
Thanks, everybody.